iPad 2 was an iteration of an already revolutionary device. While the original iPad was groundbreaking for its time and single-handedly created a new market, the iPad 2 took what was missing from the original iPad and made something special. Within 1 year, Apple went from something that was thick, heavy, and foreign to something that had its place in schools, offices, and homes across the world. The second generation iPad was thinner, lighter, had 2 cameras instead of, well, 0, and was also much faster. The iPad 2 was hyped up so much that it was quite challenging to find on launch day. Actually, hold on, let me tell you about launch day real quick. I had the misfortune of trying to buy an iPad 2 on launch day in 2011. I got to the mall at 7 a.m. sharp and there was already a massive line, and the last iPad was sold to the person in front of me in line. I then whipped out my trusty Samsung Focus and navigated to the nearest Apple store where they would hopefully have some in stock still. They didn't. I eventually gave up on getting the iPad. It was a gift for someone else anyway, and the time I could give the gift was passing. Okay, back on track and back to the script. So in this video, I basically want to focus on 2 things. The iPad 2's relevance in 2011, and also how this iPad 2 fares as a modern budget tablet, as these can be found for about $50 to $60 and would actually make a decent first iPad if you're on a budget. Let's start with the design. 2018 standards aside, the iPad 2 is still a beautiful device that was much more refined than its predecessor. On the back, you have a nice smooth aluminum body with black accented text and buttons. The aluminum body can be easily dented, but that's really the only negative with this design. The front of the iPad 2, however, makes the entire tablet feel like an artifact, and not the mediocre game kind, like I should just be sending this to a museum kind. The bezels are ridiculously huge, and when you actually hold the tablet, you'll feel the weight as well. The display, even back then, wasn't too great. You're looking at a resolution of 1024 by 768 stretched across a 9.7-inch canvas, resulting in a pixel density of 133 pixels per inch. Text and other small elements look kinda weird on such a low resolution, and it's just generally not optimal. Though I would rather have a functional tablet than a tablet with a higher resolution display, and as you'll soon find out, the iPad 2 has enough issues already driving such a high resolution display that it really couldn't take much more, which moves us on over to specs.
Which one is it? It's the one that said wild motherfucker.
At the core of the iPad 2 is a 1GHz Apple A5 processor along with 512MB of RAM. It's basically an overclocked iPhone 4S at heart. Just like the iPhone 4S, the latest software the iPad 2 can support is 2015's iOS 9, which is old, but supported by most apps. The main issue with the iPad 2 isn't support per se, it's more the lag. The iPhone 4S doesn't run great on iOS 9. In fact, a lot of people say that update killed the phone's usability. The iPad 2, well 200MHz faster, still has to push a lot more pixels than the iPhone 4S does, resulting in some lag. In most apps, the iPad will run fine, but in web browsing, most pages will lock up unless you let the entire thing load first, which can take up to 40 seconds. One of the major things the iPad 2 does better than the iPhone 4S is battery life. With over 6,000 mAh to work with, you're going to get about 5 to 7 hours of battery life. iOS 9 itself, while still somewhat modern, is starting to show its age in some places. The old emojis, notifications, and control center are just reminders that you are in fact using a 3-year-old OS. And while app support is mostly there, for now, companies are beginning to drop support. Speaking of an old OS, you can run an even older one on the iPad 2. iOS 6 is easily installed on Apple A5 devices, so if you want to throw app support out the window in return for performance, then you can do so. It just wouldn't be a choice that I'd personally make. The camera on the iPad 2 is painfully dated, but not something I really care about considering it's a tablet. You're dealing with a 0.7MP rear camera and the same on the front, which results in photos that look like Snapchat on Android. Fun fact, the iPad 2 actually shares the same optics as the iPod Touch 4th generation from 2010. So you're obviously not dealing with greatness here. I took a few sample photos, so here, take a look.
Don't hate too much, 'cause I'm blind. I've been second up. Don't hate too much, 'cause I'm blind. I've been second up. Too much, 'cause I'm blind. I've been second up.
So basically, the iPad 2 is dated in several ways, but I wouldn't say it's dead quite yet. If you're looking for an iPad that can handle most modern tasks, just not quickly, the iPad 2 makes a lot of sense if you don't want to spend over $60. If you're able to raise your budget to $100, I'd say just go on right ahead. because with that, you can get an iPad Air, which is much superior. But for my broke ass, the iPad 2 makes a lot of sense. I know I'll be using it for the foreseeable future to control my camera remotely and also watch a few YouTube videos from time to time. Anyway, that'll be it for this video. I'd love to hear your opinions or memories about the iPad 2, so please leave a comment down below. I read every single one of them. Make sure to like and subscribe and click the notification bell if you want my videos to appear in your sub box. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.